was sort of waiting for this whole ordeal to wrap up so that I could give a full account of it here. But it just seems like every day there's more he said, she said, or I should say finger pointing and blaming and throwing the ball back and forth. So before this controversy gets too stale, it's time to talk about the USA Gymnastics scandal from the Paris Olympics. So let's set the scene. August 5th, 2024. If you've somehow found this video later down the road. August 5th, 2024, Paris Olympics is the women's floor final as part of the gymnastics program. And there are 9 athletes competing in the final. And Jordan Chiles, subject of today's video, she's competing for the United States, and she's the final competitor to perform. At this point, Rebecca Andrade of Brazil is in first place, gold medal spot, and Simone Biles, also famously of the United States, is in second. And we can pretty much set them aside for this story because that's where they finished. Fair and square, there's no controversy about that. Now, at the point where Jordan Chiles is about to compete, perform, in third place is Ana Barbosu of Romania. And then in fourth place is Sabrina Voina, also of Romania, and she kind of comes into this story as well. Now, they both scored 13.700, and the tiebreaker is the execution score. So you get a difficulty score and an execution score. They're added up for the final score, but if there's a tie, it's the execution score that determines who finishes higher. And you can also receive penalties that would negatively affect your score. So Barbosu's execution score was higher than Voina's, her fellow Romanian, so she was in third at this point, and Voina was in fourth. So again, before Jordan Chiles take the floor, the podium is looking like gold for Andrade, silver for Biles, and bronze for Barbosu. Now, Jordan Chiles does her routine, and she receives a score of 13.666. That puts her in 5th place. But Chiles' coach, Cécile Conquetolanti, what a name, she files an inquiry on the score. It's part of the process, fair and square. And difficulty scores go up in increments of tenths, so 0.1s essentially. And a tenth of a difference in her score from remember the two Romanians got 13.7. A tenth of a difference would put her on the podium in third place. So, the inquiry is reviewed, and what do you know? Chiles's difficulty score is increased by a tenth. It's adjusted from 5.8 to 5.9. Her overall score becomes 13.766, and she overtakes the Romanians for third place, wins the bronze medal. Absolutely devastating. I can only imagine for Barbosu, who in her mind had already won the bronze. Now, at the same time, kind of tangentially, there's another controversy going on. Foina, the second Romanian, the fifth place now competitor, the one who's not vying for third place with Jordan Chiles, it came out that she was deducted a tenth of a point, 0.1, for going out of bounds. And there's really no indication, if you watch the tape, that she did go out of bounds. So if she had not received that deduction, her score would have been 13.800, which would have put her in third place regardless of Chiles's review and the difficulty score. Regardless of Cécile Conquetolancy's inquiry. Any excuse to say that name. So regardless of whether Cécile Conquetolancy, her inquiry was granted, Foina, a Romanian, theoretically could have been in third. So, after the event is over, both Barbosu and Foina, the two Romanians, appeal their respective decisions to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, the CAS. Foina's appeal is rejected. I couldn't find exactly why it was rejected. The media release from the CAS just says, I have it here, the application filed by the Federation Romanian Gymnastics and Miss Sabrina Maneka-Foina on August 6, 2024, and its amended version of 8 August 2024 is dismissed. It's like part of a 24-page or something document about Barbosu's appeal, which we'll get to, and literally at the end there's just that one sentence about Foina's appeal. And I would have liked to know whether it's because she would have needed to appeal within the 1 minute window. I think that's a detail that I did not mention, and why Barbosu appealed her decision, her inquiry. When you make an inquiry on a score, it has to be within a 1 minute window after the score is granted. And so we'll get to Barbosu. But basically she argued that the decision was not, or the inquiry was not filed within that minute. But back to Foina, I want to know if her appeal was dismissed because she would have needed to appeal and inquire within that 1 minute window after she received her score, or Foyna's appeal about the 10th of a point, the 0.1 penalty is dismissed. Barbosu, as I was saying, she appeals that Chiles' inquiry was filed 24 seconds after that 1 minute deadline. So it should never have been reviewed in the first place, regardless of what the difficulty score actually was. And on August 10th, so 5 days after the final, 5 days after, Jordan Chiles is awarded the bronze medal, the CAS finds that Chiles' inquiry, or Chiles' coach's inquiry, it was filed beyond the 1 minute deadline. Now, the official Omega system timed the inquiry at 1 minute and 4 seconds. So not the 24-second delay that Barbosu suggested, but actually just 4 seconds late. So the CAS rules that, I'll quote from the decision here, the initial score of 13.666 given to Miss Jordan Chiles in the final of the women's floor exercise shall be reinstated. And then the CAS orders the International Gymnastics Federation to determine the ranking of that final. And again, I'll quote, assign the medals in accordance with the above decision. So basically the CAS is telling the International Gymnastics Federation, Chiles scored 13.666. Re-rank the medals from there. It's math that we can all do. So, with Foyna's appeal rejected, the Gymnastics Federation reinstates the original standings. Barbosu places third, bronze medal. Foyna places fourth, and Chiles places fifth. Now the next day, August 11th, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, puts its stamp on it, upholds the CAS finding, and orders that Chiles return the bronze medal for it to be reallocated to Barbosu. Later that same day, August 11th, USA Gymnastics submits additional video evidence that suggests that their inquiry was made at 47 seconds. So as opposed to the official time of 1 minute and 4 seconds, they say they have conclusive evidence, video evidence, that the inquiry was filed at 47 seconds, and they request a reinstatement of the 13.766 score for Jordan Chiles. But the CAS denies the appeal to reopen the case. They told USA Gymnastics, again this is USA Gymnastics telling us that the CAS told them that their rules do not allow for an arbitral award to be reconsidered even when conclusive new evidence is presented. And the CAS as much to the media. They said, yeah, those are our rules. It's true. They said that, quote, that was discussed at the hearing, and the parties had ample opportunities to present their arguments and objections in this regard. So the CAS is not hiding the fact that they can't review a review. They said, we talked about this at the hearing, and we also asked all the parties at the hearing to present any evidence they had in the matter. Now, apparently, USA Gymnastics did not have that video evidence at the time of the hearing. So I'm wondering where that video even came from. And just yesterday, the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee, the USOPC, claimed that CAS initially sent crucial communications to the wrong email addresses, and as a result, the parties were not able to properly prepare for the hearing. They said that, quote, the USOPC strongly contests the CAS decision due to significant procedural errors. From August 6th to 9th, CAS sent crucial communications to erroneous email addresses at USOPC and USAG, USA Gymnastics, an error not corrected until August 9th, 3 days after filing, 2 days past the deadline to submit objections, and less than 24 hours before the hearing. This deprived us of adequate time to respond meaningfully or gather necessary evidence. We informed CAS of our objections immediately. Now, if I'm being harsh, 2 things. 1, I've worked around enough bureaucracy to assume that if the CAS had a wrong email address, that would have been, again, I'm assuming here, and we know what assuming does, but I'm assuming that if the CAS had the wrong email address, that would have been a clerical error on behalf of the USOPC or USA Gymnastics. That email address would have been presumably provided to CAS by someone in charge of filling forms on the USA side. And mistakes happen. I'm not blaming anyone, but how was CAS to know? I'm assuming we're following procedure. And 2, the other thing, regardless of emails, I would assume that USA Gymnastics would have, in those 3 days, would have been searching for evidence to the contrary of Romania's claims, regardless of any emails received. And they themselves said that they didn't receive that video until later, like past August 10th. So again, I know I'm being harsh, but if I'm trying to be impartial, I don't know how much of a difference the wrong email address fiasco made, and I don't know how much of it is on the CAS. But the CAS issuance of the CAS decision, it would be possible. I'm pronouncing it CAS. I think it's usually pronounced CAS. Just want to acknowledge that. New evidence appears after the issuance of the CAS decision. It would be possible to ask the Swiss Federal Tribunal to order that the case be reopened. So they're not trying to necessarily stonewall the USA here. They're saying, we're following procedure and there is a way to reopen this case. They also said the CAS would also reopen the case spontaneously if all parties agree. I would not expect Romania to agree to it. It doesn't favor them to reopen it. But USA Gymnastics, as far as they've told the media, will or have appealed to the Swiss Federal Tribunal. So this thing is far from over at this point, although it looks like it'll be in Swiss hands. And whether this video is legit and a legitimate reason to reopen the case, and then presumably that will be sort of the final word on this whole controversy saga. I think that's pretty much the ceiling of how high USA Gymnastics can bring this matter. Hopefully, because we all just want it to be resolved for everyone involved. Now, midweek, there was more, again, tangential controversy coming out. The International Institute for Conflict Prevention and Resolution reported that the head of the CAS panel that made the decision, Dr. Hamid G. Garavi, he has links to Romania. Apparently he has represented Romania or the Romanian government in past arbitration cases. And I just don't think that that has any bearing on the decision that came out of it. The evidence that everyone had at the time was that the inquiry came late. I think they all sat at the hearing and reviewed the official Omega timing. So it is a little sketchy, and it shouldn't be the case that the head of the panel has ties to one of the country, but in this case I don't think it had bearing on the decision, so I won't dwell on that part of the whole story. My thoughts on all of this, first of all, and maybe most importantly, these three women, Chiles, Foyna, and Barbosu, were done dirty by the judges, by the process, and I can only imagine how emotionally taxing this has been, and I sympathize with all three. I think they were all done wrong, and I understand that Jordan Chiles, that this kind of led Jordan Chiles to receive racially based, racially fueled harassment, and that's never okay. And she's sort of, again, an innocent bystander, as all of these women are. So that's the worst to come of this whole situation. I also think that if it turns out that the appeal was 4 seconds late, it's absurd, but those are the rules, and Barbosu should get bronze because there is a time limit in the rules that allow misjudgments to affect final scores. Should that be revised? Probably. Well, maybe. Because if there wasn't that rule, then maybe Foyna appeals 24 hours after the routine and she gets the bronze. Right? So again, it's like, well, we don't know why Foyna's decision was dismissed in the first place, but if it has to do with the time limit, then the time limit doesn't save Jordan Chiles in this case, if it was in fact 1 minute and 4 late. The reason I said maybe, I don't know if the 1 minute rule should be revised, is that again, the emotional stress on these 3 women from the last, was it 6 days now, is unimaginable. And so if you do extend the period that things can be reviewed to, let's say, just for the sake of conversation, 24 hours, then you're risking putting these athletes in really bad mental health spots. Back to this controversy though, if there is real conclusive evidence that the appeal, the inquiry from Jordan Chiles' team was made in time, then Chiles should get the bronze. It's a no-brainer. But I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think of this whole situation? It's absolute madness, and hopefully it'll come to an end sooner rather than later, just like this video. What a great segue. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.